does she want? When does she want attention?
All the time.
True or false, ladies? Come on.
True.
Make some noise. Now, there's two problems with that. First, men don't have that much attention. They don't. Their brain works different. Because her idea of attention also is she would talk to him about all her, ladies, all her what? Problems. And here's the worst part. He might be willing to do that, but she doesn't really want to solve them. Now, gentlemen, who knows what I'm talking? Make some noise if you know what I'm talking about. So let me see. You want me to listen constantly while you talk about what's f***ed up and can't be solved, even though I know I can help. And I'm an asshole if I don't do that on a daily basis. Okay, that's really helpful for me to understand. I think I'll go to work.
In order to be effective in giving and receiving attention from your partner, it's important to understand the different attention styles of men and women. So Tony will now explain how to understand the attention style of the opposite sex.
You like to share with other women every detail of what's going on because you're a gatherer, not a hunter. See, hunters, 2 million years old in men, if they're masculine, they hunt. We look to get an outcome. If we get that, gentlemen, does it matter how we kill the thing as long as we bring it back? Yes or no? The woman wants to explain, kill it like this and adjust it like that and do it this point here and explain that thing there and then make this thing happen there and then when you go back, put it over here and then stick it here and then place it in that place and then make it happen there. Now, ladies, before you start feeling hurt and misunderstood and unappreciated, perhaps I should clarify for you. Hunters hunt. They do one thing, and their job is to solve the problem, bring it home, and we're programmed to do that, hoping when we bring it back, we would see a celebration for the victory that we really went out to try to do for you. Now, these are in the old days when we were the only hunters. To be fair, ladies, you become economic hunters as good or better than we are. And many of you today, in the current economy in the United States, more women are now, for the first time in human history, employed than men. And for the first time in history, many women make more than men. Women still make less overall, but it's also statistically because they pick jobs that don't pay as high because they provide more freedom, schedule and time-wise, so they can have a family. Those are the facts. Now, some women get in very aggressive, difficult jobs, take the same risk, they make the same amount of money. So if we took away the story and we stopped judging and we went back to the genetics, we'd say, hunters go hunt, and they have two questions whenever you're talking. Question one, what's the point? And they have a hard time finding it when you're speaking very often. And here's why. Gatherers are not hunters. Gatherers have to do something different to survive. Gatherers have to walk around and truly think about this. Gentlemen, you gotta understand this so you appreciate your woman at a different level. Gatherers have to walk around and figure out where the berries are, where the food is, everything else. And as they're going, they gotta remember it all because they have to get back to that exact spot where the fruit is, the exact spot, but also at the exact right time. Because otherwise the bats or the other animals get it. You gotta get it right at the right time or the family doesn't survive. How many follow this? Say aye. And so when they come home, since they're also the weaker physically, and many women will get mad at this, but genetically, there's no question, pound.
Your life is not real. It is a construct. I call
for pound who was stronger, a man or woman physically, not stronger spiritually, mentally, emotionally, just purely structurally. True or false, ladies? Okay? So as a result, they have to go out and remember where everything is, and they come back and they want to share with everybody the information, because if I don't share it, if something happens to me, the tribe dies. So they have to come tell everybody. So they come and they have what we would call, a woman who shared this with me years ago, taught this to me, she goes, it's like we have these berry markers. We have to find where all the details, and so we come back, we remember those details. Not only do we have berry markers, but there's markings. We gotta know which berries to pick that you can eat, which ones will kill you. If we're wrong about one little detail as a gatherer, We could kill our children, kill our husband, kill everyone. So details are 1,000,000 times more important genetically in every woman in this room, because you gotta be able to mark where it is, what time it is, where's the point in time, and you gotta be able to tell which one's the right ones, the wrong ones, and process is very important to women, because I gotta process these berries properly, because some of them, if you cook them too much, they're acid. If you don't cook enough, you'll die. So what, when, where, how, and every little detail of the process is life and death. And it must be what for the survival of the species? It must be what? Shared. So women come and they tell men in detail what the to do. Now, men are hunters. We don't need to remember that the animals are moving all over the place. We got to be able to change constantly. They change constantly. There isn't one place, one location, one element. Anyone will cook it. So we just want to get the job done, and while you're explaining it, we could have killed 3 deer. It's not disrespect for you, and it's not your disrespect for us. We're doing what we're genetically programmed to do for 2 million years in the animal part of our system. So here's what women do, gentlemen, and this is the part you don't understand. They come and they start talking, and they're giving you what they learned out there in the meadow. We call it the meadow report. And they tell you every detail you could possibly never want to know in your lifetime times 10. Sage Robbins, where are you? My wife, are you in the room?
Tony's calling on his wife, Sage, to demonstrate a meta report.
Sweetheart, you're very good at these meta reports, and I've learned to totally appreciate them. Can you tell me, sweetheart, the other day we were in New York and you went out for about 5 minutes and came back and talked to me about 45 minutes about the 5 minutes. You remember that?
We were going to India, and it was a very spontaneous thing. We weren't planning to go to India, and I had all this luggage. We had about 12 bags. We'd actually just come from a Platinum Partner event from Mexico. And so I had all these big suitcases, and I was like, oh my goodness, I don't have the perfect suitcase to go to India. And so I was like, oh my goodness. And we only had about 20 minutes, and a very dear friend of ours was coming over. And I was so hungry. This is a true story. I was starving, and I was like, I don't have time to get lunch, but maybe I'll have time to go to Starbucks. So anyways, I go like running out, and I ran past Bloomingdale's, and Bloomingdale's just like it started out for Christmas, and they had like the little elves and Santas, and I was like, oh my goodness. And yet I was still so hungry, but I still had to stop and like look at the Santas and the elves. Anyways, I went to Starbucks, and Starbucks has, I don't know if you've ever been to Starbucks, they have these little hoot owl, like kind of shortbread cookies, and they're my favorites. So I got my cookies and got my tea, and I'm like running down to the luggage store because I have to go to India. And I get to the luggage store, and I'm looking at all the luggage, and they have this amazing luggage. It's like a trunk, and I'm thinking, sugar, I can't carry that on. And then I loved this luggage. Plus, it was $900, and I thought it was too expensive. So I go to the back of the place, and the guy's chatting with him, and I have my tea. And anyways, I negotiated. He gave it to me for $399. I made it back to the place in about 35 minutes, and we coached a very dear friend of ours. I had more cookies, and that was it. And we went to India that night.
Now,
It's a true story, and this was just like 2 weeks ago.
what's that, honey?
I said, this was just 2 weeks ago, and here's the funniest part of the story. I didn't take the luggage to India, but anyways, that was beside the point. It was too big, and I couldn't carry it on. Oh my goodness.
Now, I want you to notice something. That was the shortest meta report I've ever heard in my life. Now, how many of you actually enjoyed hearing that meta report? Let me see your hand. Say aye. Part of why you enjoyed it is you knew what it was. The men enjoyed it because of 2 things. She said it with such passion and with such energy and with such happiness. Imagine that same meta report going on for 45 minutes about everything that's horrible, and a man's not allowed to do anything to make it better, or you feel like he doesn't understand you. Can you hear the men in the room? Men, make the sound of what that feels like. And that's the sweetest sound they can make for it. So ladies, here's what I want you to know, and gentlemen, by the way, ladies, you may be thinking I'm making this all about you. Watch. I'm really making it about you, gentlemen, learning how to appreciate the meta report, because I want to tell you why you need to appreciate it. If a woman doesn't tell another woman the meta report of what just went on, they know they're not trusted and their relationship is on the edge. If a woman says, if you say to a man, if I come along here and I'm a woman and I come along to a masculine man and say, how was work today? William says, it was great. That's the meadow report. What was great? Helped a lot of people, a lot of fun. But how did you feel? Totally great, good. It's a great job. That's a man's meta report. And by the way, if a man went, oh, and did you know, and the little things here and the other things like that, I'm sure you haven't seen it, but if you saw this thing here, you went to, men would be, what the f is going on with you, to another man. But see, women think men are hairy women, and they need a meta report. Now watch this though, gentlemen, and you'll understand why listening to your woman's meta report will be useful. When you're talking, there's only two questions that go through a man's mind. Question number one, what's the point? Do you know how many times I asked that question when she first told me this story for 30 minutes? And I wasn't able to come up with it. In fact, at the end, as she told you, we didn't even take a suitcase to India. But the fact that made it so happy made me happy, because when women are happy, men claim victory. If I took her to the movie and she loved the movie, I walk away going, I wrote the movie, I picked the movie, I selected the movie. She's happy because I took her to the right movie. When she's unhappy, how can I pick such a movie? This is the truth, ladies. Men want to make you that happy. You just don't know it. Because most of you, they've given up on making you happy because you've made it impossible. But one of the reasons you don't feel happy is you'd feel happy if you could give your meta report. So gentlemen, here's the answer. If a woman says, how was the party, to another woman, and that woman says, ladies, another woman says, supposedly your friend says, it was good. Ladies, make the sound of how that feels. Go. Guys would be, cool. And so you push deeper, don't you, ladies? You say, well, who was there? Was that Catherine girl there? And she says, yeah, Catherine was there. Well, what was she wearing? You want to know the details, the markings, the berry markers, were there berry markers here, here? What was she wearing? Was she being the normal horse she is? Come on, tell me. And if she just goes, no, she was dressed nice, and you keep digging, and she doesn't give you a meta report, ladies, do you trust her anymore, yes or no? When you go to your man and ask him about what he just did and he gives you no details, you think he's a woman that's hairy and you shouldn't trust him. Men don't give meta reports. Gentlemen, do you agree with me on this, yes or no? They give a meta report if their job requires a meta report. If they're an artist, or a writer, a director, an entertainer, then they have to. It's part of their job. But when you see them off the job, they don't give meta reports. You don't trust them because he doesn't give you those details, and he feels your lack of trust and doesn't know where the it's coming from, and feels rejected, which is the thing he'd rather die than feel. And then someone else will, like most women do when they first meet, they don't uncork and do all the talking. They ask and let him talk and talk and talk, and he goes, holy shit. She was smiling the whole time, she was happy. I was talking, not much either, I didn't have to talk much, and she was happy. But those days don't last very long, do they? So gentlemen, here's the deal. You go to your woman, gentlemen, how long, by the way, ladies, men too physically process different than women. Women process both hemispheres of the brain simultaneously. That's why a woman never forgets anything. Because she doesn't just remember the words you said, she attaches an emotion to it, so she'll remember 20 years from now and remind you again. Men just process in one hemisphere, and they have less data storage. That's a fact, less connections. So there's only so much that they store there unless they train their brain differently. We can all train our brains differently, but it takes a lot of practice. So most men, how long, if you truly are interested, can you stay focused on a story with no point? Ladies, I want to ask you, am I being harsh? Ladies, do your meadow reports really have a major point? Yes or no?
No.
All you want to do is share all those details. Yes, it has a point for a woman, where you're genetically sharing the most important things like location, and it was in New York, and it was at, on 6th Street, and it was between the 2 Starbuckses, and it was this little thing, and it was a cup this side and the berry thing here because this one will kill you and that one will save you. It's very important for a woman. But for a man, none of this is gonna help me hunt. None of it's gonna help me take care of you. How many follow what I'm talking about here? So men are looking for a point. And by the way, I know some of you actually think there is a point, but that's feminine logic. So man's going, what's the point? Can't find one. Gentlemen, how long can you focus on a story with no point? Give me a time period, just honestly, outside. Raise your hand if it's less than 10 minutes. By the way, are we talking about a woman or any story? Say it again. Has nothing to do with you, ladies. You're taking it personal. If there ain't a point, we're out of here because we're asking 2 questions. What's the point, or how can I fix it? Those are the 2 things we're here to do. And you don't have a point and you don't want us to fix it. That's confusing to us. So ladies, I've done research in 100 countries. The most men will ever tell me they can listen to a story. I don't bring women into it. I'm doing a shortcut because of time here. The most men will listen to a story, the most, is if they worship the other person 15 minutes max, and that's when they're dating. So here's the deal. You say, honey, I'd like to share with you my meta report. That alone, he goes, okay, I need to totally focus and hear her and connect with her, but it don't go past 10 minutes. Sage gave you 1 in 4 or 5 that I thoroughly enjoy. I actually enjoy her meta reports because truthfully, most of them are 10 or 15 minutes max. But more importantly, they have some joy or happiness in them. Not all of them, certainly not all of them, but not every one is a wretched story of pain to try to get my attention. She gets my attention for good things too, anything. She got my attention, period. Because she lets me have victories. When I notice and give her attention, instead of punishing me for taking a few minutes to do it, she rewards me the minute I get there. Remember I said we're always training each other how to treat each other, how to feel. My daughter one time was so upset with her boyfriend, he didn't call her and he kept saying, you better call me, better call me. He didn't call. When he finally called, guess what she did? Laid into him. I pulled her aside and said, honey, do you want to end this relationship? She said, what do you mean? I said, you screamed at him when he called. She goes, yeah, but he didn't call forever. I said, when he does the thing you want him to do, anchor him with pleasure. The minute he called you, she should have said, oh my God, honey, I'm so glad to hear from you. I was missing you. How are you? Not punishing him, rewarding him. Then what he'll want to do is call when? Again. Otherwise he learns whenever I call and get, let me put off the pain as long as I can. Raise your hand if you understand this, ladies. By the way, gentlemen, it's the same way. If your lady does something finally and you go, finally, she isn't going to show up again. Masculine responds to challenge with appreciation. Feminine responds constantly to compliments that are sincere, constantly reinforcing. So this woman is a beautiful soul who's had a really painful set of meta reports that are truly truthful, and she told him details and then didn't allow him to solve it. And so he finally tried to find some way to survive through work and probably got attracted to someone who on the surface wasn't making him wrong. That's no excuse for his behavior. But that's what happened. Somebody else met more of his needs. If she would have been honest and told me how much love he has for her, how much variety in their relationship, how much significance, you'd find these numbers are not high on either side because neither one's fulfilling each other's needs because they've forgotten how. So ladies, I'm not telling you can't give your meta report. I'm saying if you can find the humor in your meta report and the beauty of it, that it's genetic in you, but if you can also remember the fact that he doesn't give you a meta report does not mean he's not trustable. Because when somebody doesn't trust you over and over again, you finally go, F it. It's not worth the effort. I've done nothing wrong. How many ladies can understand this? Raise your hand, say I.
Tony's making sure that both Gianfranco and Oliveira understand that he's not taking sides. If you want to enjoy your relationship, You can't hang back and criticize. You need to be active. Tony's job is to make sure that both members of the couple are doing their best for the relationship. The fourth step of relationship healing is to inspire trust in each other. In the big picture, trust is inspired when you feel someone has your best interest at heart and that your interests are aligned. In the short term, though, trust is inspired by a variety of minute-to-minute factors that may not be conscious for you. Now, what Tony's saying is that men and women inspire trust in opposite ways. Women communicate through meadow reports that share everything spontaneously, including details, experiences, and emotions. Not sharing a full report from another woman means there's a loss of sharing, which means a loss of trust. Men communicate in the opposite way, by filtering out everything they saw in the meadow and aligning with each other by sharing the objective of the hunt. And they often do this in silence or with minimal communication. A man that gets distracted by details and loses track of the objective loses the trust of other men. The point here is that in order to feel trust for you, your partner expects certain things in your communication, and it's important that you appreciate your partner's language. So here's a quick tip. If you're a hunter type and you don't have much to say about your day, at least say it with a warm, reassuring gesture, like a look, a smile, or a hug. And if for 2 million years hunters have been bringing their winnings home every night, then when you go home after work, don't go home empty-handed. Once a week, bring home a small gift as a sign of your affection. If you're a gatherer type and your partner is a hunter, then remember that hunters accept each other by respecting the hunt. Show your partner that you respect and appreciate the effort he's making for you and your family. Align with him. These two rituals will inspire trust and respect in each other and will be a source of ongoing reassurance, trust, and love.
Did he look at you in a way that got your attention?
Sì, mi guardava e mi ascoltava tanto. Sì.
Yeah, he looked and he also listened to me.
Yes, he looked and also listened to you. In fact, she probably shared a meta report, and he was dating, so he listened for at least 15 or 20 minutes consistently. He wasn't being deceitful. It was just the first time he'd heard it, so it was still fascinating. It wasn't the same meta report for the 5,000th time with negative, heavy emotions where he felt like he could do nothing about it. I'm not making fun, ladies. How many really get what I'm talking about now? Because if you get it, ladies, you'll see these men actually do love you. That's why I'm telling you this. They love your act. They just don't understand this meta report shit. And you think they're not trustable because they don't give it to you and they don't listen to it. You think they don't understand you. They don't understand the structure of how you communicate. They understand you more than you think. If she feels that in this man is strength, strength can come in the form of a bad boy. Strength can come in the form of a man who feels like he owns himself, that nothing can take him for what he's focused on. Ladies, if you agree that is the absolute killer quality, make enough noise so every man in this room hears it, please. Because gentlemen, now that ladies think I'm not on their side, some of them and others now know I am on their side. How many get that I'm on your side, ladies? 100%. For those of you who don't think I am or think I'm just making generalizations about you, let me help you express yourself to men so they understand the real problem. That no man in this room who's masculine has any full appreciation of, not because he doesn't care, because he has no experience like you, because he's not a hairy woman. Ladies, I want an honest answer. How many of you have had a time, sometime in the last month, where you were someplace by yourself or even with someone else and you had a moment of concern for your safety, either walking out to a car at night, going underground to a parking lot? Raise your hand if you've had moments where you actually feared for your life. Raise your hands. Gentlemen, if you look around the room, it's about probably 95% of the women in the room. I think that would be a conservative estimate. Ladies, how many have had that experience in the last 2 weeks? You've had an experience where you had that fear. Raise your hand. In the last 2 weeks. And now we're at about 45 or 50% of the room. Who's had that experience, ladies, in the last week before you got here? In the last week before you got here, you actually had moments where you had fear for your safety. And we're about 25 or 30%. 25 to 30% of the women in the last week have had this. 95% have had it in the last month. Gentlemen, if in the last month you've had fear for your safety, gut level like, oh my God, survival fear, raise your hand. Is there one hand up I'm missing? Okay, one person, one man, two men, three men, four men. 4 men out of 1,000 men on average. There's a few more women here than men. I think it's about 55, 45. But roughly 1,000 men in this room, 4 in the last month have had it. 95% of the women have fear for their safety. This is the difference between a hunter and a gatherer. Women have been preyed upon as gatherers forever. There's a reason why women give all these barrier reports and details. Because even though they're stronger than men physically and emotionally, women can take pain much more than men. If you doubt it, go into a birthing room and watch the man fall over while the woman's doing all the work screaming. Okay? Is it true? Women have much more powerful tolerance for pain. Women today, a woman could be making $300,000 a year in personal income. She could have a child without a man. She can be as educated or smarter than most of the men she knows. And yet some part of her genetically still is looking for someone to give her a sense that she is protected. Ladies, if that's true, make some noise. Including the woman who'll say, F you, I don't need that. She doesn't want that. Unless she is truly masculine, she absolutely has this need, because it has nothing to do with logic. It has to do with 2 million years of conditioning. Now, to fully appreciate the women in this room and what they go through, gentlemen, so you can find your heart when it feels like they're being mean, you gotta know how scared they really are. You have no idea how scared this woman is. Did you see this difference in the rooms? 95% of the women worried about their safety, 3 men, 4 men. Gianfranco, when you met this woman, looking at her, were you attracted to her?
Sì, mi sono sentito